success. This is a place to be if you have trained with another practitioner before you have come here to join me on 6 months to mastery. So the purpose of this little training is really just to provide you with some reassurance. If you've trained elsewhere and we've had a call, I know that you're here ready and able to do this work. So this is just the fine tuning and looking at any similarities in what you've done before, anything that might be different, or any gaps that might be there. But even if there are gaps, please know that this program is set up to support you. You are not the first person on this program that is trained elsewhere. You are not the first person, if indeed this even applies to you, that has some gaps in your training that differ from how I do it here. I will take care of you. So this is really just a little bit of reassurance so I can really show you very, very clearly how I do the work here, what I would expect for you to be bringing to the table in your communication consultations, and what I don't mind if you let go of. And also sharing with you things that you can bring from your previous training into here. I'm not precious about that at all. I want this to be as easeful for you as possible. But for you to get maximum success in this program, there are some things that I expect you to be doing and I will be assessing you on in your case studies. So I want to set you up for success. If I was to not tell you what I'm looking for, I'd be setting up for failure, because when I come to assess your case studies, you won't know to have done X, Y, and Z. So this is a place where I tell you what you need to know so you can absolutely get the best out of this program and set yourself up for success right from the start. So let me share my screen with you. And let me get this moved across here. So here we are, reviewing the basics. So let's kick off. There are 3 sections to this training session. I'll be sharing the Pet Whisperer processes that I use here and I teach all students on my programs. I'll go over what I absolutely expect to see in your work and direct you to where you can find that. And I will share with you the things that you can just let go and not worry yourself about. Excuse me. So first process, setting yourself up for success. So the first part of this is before you even do your communication work. This is about setting up your physical space. Excuse me. Not everybody has the luxury of a dedicated space to do their animal communication practice. So what I invite you to think about is, where do you do yours currently? Or if you don't have a regular place, I invite you to think about, is there a space in your home or your garden shed where you would be wanting to do your regular case study practice? Because here's the thing, when you have a spot that you do this work, over time you really start to build the energy in that space. And so when we are connecting with the animals, connecting with our guides and our power animals, the more we do that in the same place, the more we build that energy. So it's a really good idea to consider having a designated space. Now, over the years, I've had students where it's been the end of their bed. That's where they've done the work. I have another student who actually lived in a small RV with our animals. There was not much space at all. So if you are really short on space, then this first step here is really, really important to you. You want to make sure it's a physically clear space. So if it is at the end of your bed, just making your bed and making sure that you don't have 6-foot high piles of ironing or clothes to put away at each side of you really helps the mind settle and have that kind of calm feeling in your physical space before you actually start the communication process. I would also recommend that you sage the area that you're working. If you can, I would sage your whole house or cleanse it in some other way if you don't use sage. Whatever your normal cleansing, space clearing rituals are, I would absolutely put that in place as well. So you're really setting up the physical space so that it can hold you in your work. And then you want to ensure your own physical comfort. So if you're at the end of your bed, but you know that you get a sore back, then you want to make sure that maybe you sit at the top of your bed where you can lean against the headboard. Or if you are on the only chair in the room where you can do the work and it's not a comfortable chair, make sure you pop a cushion there. Or if you're far away from the radiator, make sure that you've got a blanket beside you. So you really want to ensure your physical comfort so that you can make sure that your process is as fluid as possible and not being thwarted by you being uncomfortable and wriggling about or having a sore back or suddenly feeling cold and having to get up, having to go up and put the radiator on, etc. So just make sure you pay a little bit of attention to what you need to support your physical body if you're sitting somewhere for around an hour. So that's the practical pieces for getting your physical space sorted. Now we want to look at how you prepare for yourself. So I always recommend that you do whatever you need to do to quieten your mind. I always recommend meditation, but I'm somebody that found meditation very difficult. So it was a long, long time before that was my go-to. So if meditation is not your bag, don't worry about it. Whatever works for you to quieten and still your mind. It might be a walk in nature, it might be rolling around the floor with your cat, whatever works for you. That's what you put in here, because the object is to reach that state of a quiet, still mind. So whatever you need to do, you want to put that in place. Then you want to ground yourself. I recommend my soul to soul connection technique. You can get a handout version of that below this video, or you can use the track on the CD. There's a track on the CD, so you can either read it, remember it, and do it that way, or you can be guided through it on the CD. So that's what I would recommend. So you've got your mind nice and quiet, you ground yourself, and check your body. So this is really important for when you are doing your health case studies, but it's a good practice to get into. Just quickly scan your body. Scan your body. What's going on in your body today? And just notice that on a physical level, mental level, and emotional level, just so that you don't inadvertently apply what's going on your body to the animal. So you're not feeding back to the guardian and saying, oh, they had a bit of a sore head today, but funny, I had a sore head today too. So if you're picking up an ailment in your animal case study that you're doing, that you've already picked up in your own body when you've scanned your body, just make sure that it's actually the animals and it's not yours. That's a really good practice to get into. So a scan of your body to see how your body is feeling physically, mentally, emotionally in this moment as you get ready to do your communication work. Then last but by no means least, in your own preparation for yourself, you want to set your intention for this work, say your prayer, whatever your ritual is. And I do encourage you to have a ritual. So you may have a ritual that you learn from a different teacher. And if that works for you, use that. I'm not precious about what you do to get to where I need you to be. So I just need you to be at a place where you are relaxed, your mind's quietened down, you've grounded yourself, you've scanned your own body, and you've done what you need to do to be ready to connect. And I would invite you at this stage, if you've not been taught this by your other teacher, I would recommend that you work with your power animals. You bring your power animals in. If you work with specific angels or guides, this is the time that you want to be bringing them in and inviting them in to your consultation space. There is a copy of a prayer that I created many years ago in this section, so you can have a look at what's there and adjust it, tweak it to make it more of your own, or you might already have your own, and that's absolutely okay. So this is the place where you're getting yourself ready, so you're at that point where you are now ready to make your connection with the animal. And that's the exciting part, isn't it? So this is my framework. There's quite a lot here. Again, you can get this as a handout below this video. But basically, we've done all the preparatory work. You're grounded. You've got your team. You've called them into your space, and then you want to use the soul to soul connection technique. So that's my way of connecting soul to soul with the animal that you are working with. You can get a written out version of that attached to this training module, or you can use the guided meditation version on the CD. So you've got the written format, or you can use the audio format, whatever works best for you. Then you want to introduce yourself to the animal. I think this is really important. It just makes for nicer communication. So just a little moment to say who you are and why you are speaking to them. Because when you go through the soul to soul connection, if you've never done it in this way before, you're already speaking to the animal, letting them know why you're there, and that you have permission to communicate with them from their guardian. And then you just do a little introduction, like who you are, why you've come, what their people want to know. So it doesn't take long. It's just the way you would speak to a friend or somebody that you were maybe at work with, or you had to have a conversation with somebody about something. You just treat all of this like a conversation with a friend. That's a very big mantra of mine. Treat it like a conversation with a friend. So have that relaxed introduction. Hi, I'm Sarah Jane. Your mum's asked me if I could chat to you about X, Y, and Z, because she just really wants to know what's going on for you right now, or she's maybe worried about you. Just really, really simple. And then you're always asking permissions. So in this introduction, it's really nice to say, is that okay with you? That's you asking permission, and that way you're working in partnership with the animal. And I do go over this much more when you're doing your case studies, and it's part of the assessment process that I need to see. I want to see that you're making permission. You're doing this in partnership. You're not telling the animal what you're doing. You're negotiating. So that's an important part in that introduction. Then you are doing the next three areas: the initial impressions, the likes and dislikes. This is a core part of the way that I work. And you may not have been taught this elsewhere. You may have, you may not have. So the initial impressions, that's you just capturing the essence of the animal. What is their character? Are they timid? Are they nervous? Are they shy? Are they flamboyant and bold and courageous? Are they anxious? Are they sad? Are they happy? Are they a people person? Are they timid and like to get to know people first? All those kind of characteristics, the essence of the animal that you are communicating with, we want to do that next. Then we just simply ask them to share with us some things they like and some things they might not like. And these are us starting to build rapport with the animal, relationship with the animal, but also starting to build our evidence of connection as well. That's why they're in here. Then we just simply inquire how they are and just say, thank you so much for sharing all of that with me. How are you? Do you want to tell me a bit about yourself and how things are for you right now? And that way you're letting the animal lead. You're not coming in with your checklist and saying, right, your mum wants to know why you're fighting with your brother. We don't do that here. So it's just that gentle inquiry, because if there's something going on that's an issue for the guardian, it's going to be an issue for the animal, and they're likely to volunteer it for you anyway when you ask them how they are. And they're saying, oh, it's okay, but I'm really not liking the way my brother does X, Y, and Z right now. He's really annoying me. You're already in. You don't need to then go and bring in an awkward part of the conversation. So just gentle inquiry, and that can often lead you to where the guardian wants you to go anyway. And then the next stage is to ask the questions that will take you to where the guardian wants you to go. So that might come up very naturally, as I've just outlined in that example, but it might not. So deal with what they say when you ask how they are, and then you come into the permission making again, and you would just say something like, well, thank you very much for sharing all of that with me. Your mum is actually feeling a little bit concerned at the moment. Did you know that she was worried about you? You're likely to say no. And then you say, well, she's really worried because she's noticing that you're fighting more with your brother. Can you tell me a little bit about that? So you're now going into the questions that you need to be asking in order to give the guardian the information that they are looking for. Now, we do whole other trainings on this. So just know that this is the asking the question stage. And this is where we use our effective questions, where there's already trainings on. And that's what we'll be honing down on in this next 6 months, how to ask the effective questions. And then once you've done that and you've covered everything on the referral form, then you just want to finish by asking if they have anything that they want to share with their guardian, with their people, with their family. So that's the last piece of the process. Do you have anything that you want to share? Then you just give thanks for their time, their energy, for being a great teacher for you, for helping you understand what's going on for them. Just put all the thanks in there. You then would bring in any healing work if that is applicable for the animal and the situation. And if you are trained in healing work, then you would bring that in here. And if you're not trained in healing work, then you just omit this piece. You can always just send love. So just go into your own heart space and send that beautiful, loving energy from your heart to theirs and wrap them up in a bubble of love. That's a really nice thing to do if you don't have specific expertise or training as in healing work. And then last, but by no means least, disconnection. The last stage of the consultation framework is to disconnect. So you've opened it up with the soul to soul connection, and then you need to disconnect at the end, because you do not want to be wandering around with all of the animals' energy still connected to you and there's stuff going on. And equally, you do not want the animal to be wandering around still connected to you energetically and got all your stuff as well. So we want to make that clean, clear disconnection. If you've not been taught that by your previous teacher, then I absolutely need you to listen to the CD, and there's a disconnection technique in there, and follow that. This is an essential part of how I teach and how I expect you to do your work, because it's very, very important from an energetic perspective. You want to close down the energetic connections that you have opened up. You want to close those channels right down for your safety and for the animals as well. So listen to the disconnection technique on the CD, and that will show you how to do that. Then we are looking at what I expect you to include in your work so that you can set yourself up for success on this program. These are the things that I will be measuring you against. These are the things that I will be assessing your work against. So get tooled up, know what I'm looking for, so that you can make sure that you're ticking those boxes as you go. As I say, this is how you set yourself up for success. So I've split it into two categories. There's processes and approaches. So the processes that I expect you to have in place when you're doing your communication work is your introduction. That doesn't need to be big and long, just an introduction with a permission. So is it okay if we talk about this? Are you all right for us to explore this together? So introduction with permissions. Then your character likes and dislikes. These are an essential part of the assessment process, and I expect you to do these with every single consultation. Now, a little important note here. I set this out at the beginning of the session because that's how it works for me. So when I'm doing my consultations with animals, I do the character likes and dislikes. It's the very first thing that starts to flow through as soon as I look at the picture. It's already starting. That's how it works for me. It might not work like that for you, and that is okay. What I want to say about this is that your character likes and dislikes, they have to be a part of your process. And I'll explain why in a moment. But they might not come in naturally at the beginning for you. Or maybe the animal knows that you're coming, because they usually do, and they're desperate to speak to you about something. So as soon as you're connecting with them, they're straight in there saying, oh, can you tell my mum that I really don't like the new cat in the house and she has to get rid of him? The animal might come straight in. I do not want you to stop the animal and say, oh, no, we're not going to talk about that now. I need to get your character and your likes and your dislikes first, because that's the process. I don't want you to be process led. I want you to be animal led. So if either the animal takes you a different direction right at the beginning, or it doesn't work for your style as an animal communicator, leave this section to the end. Leave it. Just put it to the end. And then when you're finished, say, it would really help me if you could share with me some of your character, things that you like, things you don't like. And this will really help me show your mum or your dad that we've really been speaking and I'm not just making it all up. Can you help me out with that? They're going to help you out with that, I promise. And then get your character likes and dislikes at the end if that suits your style of working better. I'm not fussed how you do it, as long as you do it. So this is why it's important. When somebody has asked you to communicate with their animal friend, they might understand animal communication, know about it, and trust the process, or they might not. Either way, they want to feel confident that you are genuinely connected to their companion. And why this is so important to establish this genuine connection is because once you dive into the question asking part of the consultation, the guardian is now asking you to find out information that they want to know about. So they don't know about this stuff. They don't know how the dog feels about the cat. They don't know how the horse feels about the rider that comes. They want to know that information. And so if you have been able to establish through the character likes and dislikes process that you understand who their animal friend is, you know what they like, and you know some things that they don't like, and they know that that is all true, then they now have confidence in your connection with their animal friend. So they can now relax and let you tell them the other stuff that they're there to find out about. Now, just a little disclaimer in here. I do not expect you to have 100% accuracy across the character likes and dislikes. I don't expect that because people sometimes forget things. They forget that that's an aspect of their character because they might not see it very often, or they don't see it at all. So they might not even know. But if you were to ask somebody else in the household, they might see that. So remember, feedback is just one person's perspective at that moment in time based on what they know and remember. And we're human beings and we're a bit fickle and we sometimes forget stuff. So they might forget that they used to have a toy that they really, really liked that was pink and had yellow spots on it. Or they might not know that their animal companion does not like having their nails clipped because they don't make a fuss. So just because they're not making a fuss doesn't mean they enjoy it. It just means that they're not making a fuss. So just remember here, the guardian might not be able to validate everything because they might not know or they might have forgotten. And I'm not looking for 100%. This is just to create a benchmark. It's just a rough benchmark to create confidence for your client and your capability and your connection with their animal, and to also create confidence for you because as they say, yes, that's her. Yes, that's him. Oh, he really does not like that. Oh, she loves that. You're now going to start to feel more confident about your connection as well. So it works in those two different ways. Now, there is also another element that I want to bring in here about the importance of this section. And that is about safeguarding you in your practice as well. So, regardless of whether you collect the information around their character likes and dislikes at the beginning and the kind of process and flow that I set out, or whether you do it at the end, doesn't matter to me when you do it. But the important piece is that you share that with the guardian first. So even if you take the information at the end and talk about it with the animal at the end, I want you to present that information to the guardian first. So your first feedback to your guardian is the character of their animal, some things that they like, some things that they perhaps don't enjoy. And remember this too, do not go searching. If they've said, there's nothing, or you get a blank when you've asked, is there anything you don't enjoy so much? And you get a blank. It's maybe because they're really happy and there isn't anything that they don't like. That in itself is the validation. And likewise with the likes, there's maybe not a million things that they like, and the guardian might say, oh yeah, she's actually quite difficult to please. So that is again validation in its own right of the character. So don't go searching and think you have to get a list. Just take what comes. But regardless of how you get that information, we present that first. And this is for the confidence reasons that I already outlined. So this is your building confidence in your client, of your work and your capability. But if in the very unlikely event that they say, no, that's not her character, no, no, she really doesn't like that, or no, he actually loves that, and you said that he doesn't like it, but he really enjoys that. So you're getting all these no's, doesn't match, doesn't resonate, doesn't fit. So if you were to get to there, that would be your place to say, and I keep it light. If you're taking notes, you want to write this down. If that ever happens to you, keep it light. Don't let yourself go into like, oh my God, I've got it all wrong. Oh my gosh. Oh, they're going to think I'm the worst animal communicator in the world. Don't let yourself go there. You might be feeling that and you might feel your confidence drop, 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 drop. But especially if you're doing this face to face or on the phone or a Zoom call, you want to keep this really light. So important. Keep it light and say, oh, that's really unusual. I've never had this before, because you probably haven't, because it doesn't happen very often. Which is, I've never had this before, right? Something's clearly off here in the connection. I would love to do this again. Would you be happy for me to reconnect another time and do this again? That's what you want to do there, because this is the point at which we're trying to establish the connection you have with the animal and instill confidence in your client. Now, if it goes all belly up like that, then you just offer to do it again. And if you have a paying client, that's where you would offer them a refund or a second opportunity for you to get it right for them. Where this also is helpful is if you have a situation, and this has happened to me, so I'm going to share two things with you that really outline the importance of this structure. It happened, a student on my program many years ago now, a student on my program got in touch with me and said, oh my goodness, have you seen online what's happened? Now, this is actually way before like social media as we know it today. But somebody had posted on some kind of forum about a particular animal communicator and that they had been taken advantage of by them, and everything that the animal communicator said was generic and not specific to their animal, and they thought the whole thing was a hoax. So my student came to me and said, oh my goodness, have you seen this? And she knew that I knew the animal communicator. So she said to me, oh my goodness, have you seen this? And she said, but how could this happen? If you're doing character likes and dislikes, that shouldn't happen. And so I was able to say to the student, but this is my teaching. That's not what other people necessarily do. So this is where, when you do the character likes and dislikes, when you get to that point where you finish feeding that back, they either know that you're connected to their animal or you're not. And if you're not, or they believe that you're not, that's where you just call it a day and you offer them a refund, or you offer to do it again if there's payment involved. Now, I'm going to share the second example of why this is so important. And this is what happened to me. It was quite a few years ago now. Maybe, I don't know how many years, maybe 10. So the actual communication took place about 10 years ago. And it was easily maybe 3 years after the consultation, 3 years after I'd done the work. So a big space of time. And the client came back to me 3 years afterwards and basically said, you're a fraud, you're a charlatan, everything that you said was generic, and my cat died a lonely, miserable death because of you and what you told me to do. So that was the essence of the email. I was shocked. I was horrified. I was upset and I cried. It was awful. But what I was able to do, and this is why I'm sharing this with you, what I was able to do was be able to locate that animal's file. So there's a first piece for you as well. Do you have a system that would allow you to find a communication from 3 years before? So I was able to get out their file, and because I use the character likes and dislikes, my the file was set out character likes and dislikes, and they were all ticked off. And I have a little box because I always say at the end of that process, does that sound like your cat, your dog, your monkey, your goldfish as you know them? And if I've not got a yes, I don't proceed. And that has never actually happened to me. So I have a little box and I just tick it, and that tells me that the guardian is signed off on the character likes and dislikes. Now we proceed to the rest of the communication, which is the nitty gritty that they want to know. So I read through the communications and my notes from the communication consultation with her cat. And the essence of the communication was that she had two cats that were just too noisy at night when they were in the same space together. So she shut them out of her bedroom. because she couldn't sleep. And the cat that I was communicating with told me how upset he was about that he didn't like being shut out the bedroom. And I explained to him why that was. And then I had a conversation with the guardian, and she basically said, I cannot have them in the bedroom, and it's not fair for me to bring one in and not the other. And I agreed with that. I agreed with that, and I updated the cat and let him know that sorry, but that's kind of where it's at right now. So that was all very clearly laid out in my notes. So even though she came to me 3 years later and said these quite unkind things, I had the evidence that that was not how the actual feedback session went. That might be her distorted memory of it. I'm guessing, I'm guessing that her cat died and she wrote to me in grief, maybe even in guilt, and was just projecting that all onto me. Sometimes that happens because we're human, and that's what some people do when they haven't worked through their own stuff enough. But I knew that I hadn't done anything wrong, and I was able to compile a really sensitive, kind, supportive email that took care of the fact that she might, because I didn't know if the cat had just died or died 3 years ago, and it took her 3 years to pluck up the courage to email me. So I covered all of those bases really sensitively and was very clear. I have a 3-step process. You signed off on the 3-step process. What's interesting is that this is in my notes, and I took a picture of it and I attached it, and it was the bit where the cat was saying, I want to be in the bedroom. So that's the other reason why using a process like this is really important, because it actually safeguards you from clients further down the line, or even in a state of grief, distorting or only hearing what they want to hear, or only looking for what they want to hear, and you're not actually giving it to them. So there's all these different ways that clients can come into a consultation. They might be looking for something very specific from you and it doesn't come up, so they write everything else off, or they might only be able to hear certain things and they're just not hearing anything else. It's just what happens. And these are the things that we will talk through and experience as we move through the program. And we can dive into the minutiae of that as and when, or if it even happens. But this is why the character likes and dislikes is an essential part of the process in my training, and the way that I do this work, the way that I teach you to do this work, is to safeguard you. Okay. Disconnection is absolutely non-negotiable. That is a safety practice, so that you are energetically disconnected from the animals. So they're the processes that I expect you to have in place in your consultations. The approaches, I've already touched on this, it came up earlier, but I expect you to be animal-led, and I will always guide you to be animal-led if I'm seeing that you're not always being fully animal-led in your work. It can happen. We get caught up on a tangent, or the animal takes us off on a different route. So I will guide you on how to always be animal-led. We do not make assumptions in our work. This is a big thing, as part of the assessment process. No assumptions. We use our effective questions to get the facts. Don't assume anything. We use our effective questions, which I will teach you as we move through the program, to get the facts, and then there's no assumptions in there whatsoever. And just a little note here on consultations. It's a language piece. It kind of niggles me, triggers me, drives me a little bit bonkers. We here at Pet Whisperer, we do animal communication consultations. This is a consultation. It's not a reading. It's not a reading. It's not a reading. It's not a reading. Can't say it clearly enough. This is where we can separate our work from psychics. Animal communication work and psychic work, there's some overlap, but they are intrinsically different. But what I want for you to be able to do is just create that separation. I think animal communication consultation has a professional tone and quality to it that reading lacks. And when we talk about readings, your client, if they're not well versed in animal communication and it's all new to them, when we talk about reading, their mind will automatically go to psychic reading. They'll think you're a psychic or a medium, and they'll have you pegged in that arena. And my work over the last 20 odd years has been solely focus on how we bring professionalism to animal communication, how we take it away from the woo woo and we really make it solid. And this is my big piece to bring that professional quality and tone to our work. And I'm not suggesting for a single minute that psychics and mediums are not professional. That's not what I mean here at all. And you might be here as a medium, as a psychic. And I've had coaches on my team in the past that were psychics and mediums. So it's no disrespect to that branch of the work. Here, I like for us to just separate that out. So we're taking it away from what is often considered the woo-woo work, and we're really wanting to kind of ground the animal communication work and just help it become more mainstream so we can work more easily in partnership with vets and other professions that would in the past would have just dismissed it as kind of woo woo mystical rubbish, and we know that that's not the case. So that's just my thing. We don't do readings here, we do consultations, and if I hear you say the word reading, I will pick you up on it. I absolutely will. So that's my little bugbear there. So, what you can dismiss, you have my full permission to dismiss anything in the teachings that does not align with you, that doesn't support the way that you do this work, as long as they are not the pieces that you need from the last slide. They're not the pieces that you need to have in place to do the best at this work, to really shine and succeed and maximize your success. So everything on the last slide, if there's anything on there that you don't like, don't want to do, then we need to have a conversation. We need to have a conversation, and I'll support you through that. So, grounding technique. If you don't like my grounding technique, and you're entitled to not like it, you're allowed to not like it. If you don't like it, you've got a different grounding technique, use it. If you connect in a different way and it gets you to where you want to be, which is talking with the animal, use your connection technique. I don't care. I really don't care. This work is about you, or part of my role is to support you in finding your own unique way to do this. You do not need to follow my stuff. You do not need to use all the techniques that I use. You can pick and choose. You can cherry pick what you like, dismiss what you don't like, as long as it doesn't impact on the last slide and the areas that I'm absolutely looking for you to build into your work. So anything that you've been taught from a previous trainer that you really love and you don't want to let it go, don't let it go. Keep it, use it, still be happy with it. So that's my piece here. You can just dismiss anything that doesn't align with how you do this work, the way that you work, anything at all, let it go unless it was in that last slide. And we need to then find a middle ground. And I can support you with, if it's a character likes and dislikes and it just doesn't show up naturally for you, we'll find a different way to make sure that you've got a safeguard in your work that protects you as an animal communicator, because that's what that process is about. It's about me providing a safety net, a framework that protects you and safeguards you, especially for when you're outside of this program and you're out there doing this work on your own. So yeah, my full permission to just dump anything that doesn't fit with how you work, as I say, provided that it's not part of the essential elements and components that I would be looking for from you as you move through the program. So I trust that little reviewing of the basics has been helpful for you. If there's anything at all that you're not sure of, you want to check out with me, then you just ask at the next class or drop me an email, just whatever's easiest for you. None of this needs to be problematic. It's never, ever been problematic before. We will find a way. That's our slogan here at Pet Whisperer. We will find a way. There's always a way. There's always a way. And I'll make that way. We'll make that way happen together to make sure that you are able to do all of the things that might be new to you just now. We'll make sure that we find a way that you can integrate these into your practice, into your routines, into your systems in a way that's easy and effortless.